Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I'm not sure if y'all can hear me, see me, hear me, but good morning. God morning. Good morning. Great top of the morning to you. Welcome to Let's Talk Tuesday with your host, yours truly, Dr. Nicole Lowe, the people's coach. Look, I am just so happy to be here this morning. I'm looking for my chat here. I have some little monkey over here. I don't know why the monkey is here, but let me see if I can get rid of the monkey. I have a monkey in my space this morning. Wow. For those of you who are with me, thank you for joining in. Wow. It is my birthday. Hello, somebody. It's my birthday. It's my birthday. So, anyways, again, thank you all for joining me this morning. And I just want to give some information on how we're doing this session. If you want to call in, because I'll be taking live calls, you can call 408 598 2602. I'll let you know when I'll start accepting calls. This is our launch for the show. And I started the show because I speak to hundreds of people every week, and I'm giving advice every week. And I realized that, we live in a world where people are more isolated than ever, though we have a lot of social media and this is the digital age and this is the knowledge age. And you would think there's so much access with social media, but there's less engagement, social emotional engagement. So sometimes people don't have anybody to talk to. And there are so many topics that I share and engage with all these people on a weekly basis. And I just realized, everybody does not have all the information that they need. And I don't believe in common sense because common sense is not common, except for to who it's coming to, and things are not relevant until it's relevant. So, therefore, I just made a decision that, you know what, Reach In Talk Show went over great when I launched it a few years ago, and now we're relaunching. And this is an opportunity where you can call in until we set it up, and I have my studio audience, right? So feel free to call in 408 598 2602. And I'm just going to kind of chill and have a just flow through this morning and give you some information because we do have a topic for the day. We do. And our topic is on boundaries. Oh my God. I don't think people know what that is, right? So, but I do have a quote for you today. And the quote says this: It is not your responsibility to set yourself on fire so that others can get warm. I need you to hear that. It is not your responsibility to set yourself on fire so that others can get warm. My dad used to say back in the day, as we were growing and maturing, and I remember being a young woman, he would say he doesn't mind helping, but he's not going to hurt himself to help someone else. And it just pretty much just all falls in the same category of when you're on the plane, you first need to give yourself oxygen in order to give others oxygen. And this world is a world full of toxicity, common sense theories, misplaced expectations, evil. Yes, we know. But I believe that this world is also filled with people who want to do good, who want to do better, who want to be successful in life, but not all the time do they have the tools, the skill sets, the proper mentors and examples and guides to help them navigate these waters called life. And because they don't have that, Sometimes they fall off. They do the things that they know. And everybody, I don't care who you are, how old you are, how young you are, everyone um, walks through life and makes decisions and choices according to the data that they have in their life bank. And if you don't have the right data, you're not going to make the right choices. And even when you do have the right data, you make decisions according to your belief system. And if you have a faulty belief system, you're going to make faulty choices. And it's not necessarily deal breakers, because at the end of the day, the decisions that we make, and we have to understand that we can make whatever choices we want, but we can't control the consequences. So that's why it's important for each of us to get the right information and build the right belief systems so that we can make the right choices, so we can end up with better consequences, right? So today I'm going to share about boundaries. We're just going to talk a little bit about boundaries, because boundaries are important for you to live a healthy, successful, peaceful life. And yes, you have the right to have boundaries, because at the end of the day, you have the right, it's your God given right to feel, to heal, and to thrive. That's your God given right. Because a lot of times people go through life, and especially when you're one of the strong ones, oh my God, strong people shouldn't demonstrate any type of depression or, off day. They have to be on 100%. No, that's the ideology, but that's not the reality. So we're going to talk about personal boundaries today. Y'all ready? Remember, it's my birthday. It's my birthday. So if you want to call in and shout out to me, feel free to do so. But we're going to talk about personal boundaries, okay? Y'all ready? Let's get going. Oh, Lord, look at that reflection. Anyways, so today, personal boundaries. What are personal boundaries? Personal boundaries. We're going to set that up there. Personal boundaries are the rules and the limits we set for ourselves on what we are going to deal with, what we're going to accept in life. What are those limitations? And one of them is saying no to other people, because we all have a right to have our own personal space. Personal space. And when we are dealing with boundaries, and we're going to talk about what that looks like, let me give you a picture. So you live in a home, and you have a neighbor, you have neighbors, but you also have a fence. Well, that fence is there to keep people in and to keep people out until they make the decision, if it's your fence, whether you want to enter or exit that fence. But that fence is there to keep other people out unless they gain your permission to access the entryway to get into to walk through your fence. It's the same thing in life. We have personal boundaries, or we should have personal boundaries. I remember being a young woman and growing up in this life, especially as being a Christian woman. I would go to church. I knew about love. I loved people. I mean, I love people, as they would say, to a fault. And all that means is I love people. I had a problem telling them no, because I didn't want to disappoint people. So I was what we call a people pleaser. And I know I'm not the only one, because people exercise that type of behavior for several reasons. But one of the reasons why I exercise that behavior, because of how I was brought up. I was brought up, as y'all know, today I turned 52, so I came from a era where children kept quiet. We were taught that you be quiet, you don't have anything to say, you actually are to be seen and not heard. And we were also taught that you don't tell an adult no. And I remember there were times when I would have something to eat, like food on my plate. And there were several adults that felt like they can just come in and take the food off the plate. They didn't have to ask me if they wanted any of my food. They chose not to ask me, let me just say that. And I remember being a little girl, and that used to run me hot. I couldn't believe, like, why are they taking food off my plate and not asking me? It's my food. But that was a conditioning and a grooming that we were given. And though that may seem very minute, we have to understand that whatever we teach children, then as young children, those seeds being planted, those seeds grow up if we don't learn anything different. So, personal boundaries, and I found that as I grew older, as I became an older woman, young woman, it was hard for me to tell people no. Though I was upset, I didn't want them to have access, and it was hard for me. And so when I began to grow and I began to study the Word of God. I began to just continuously be uneasy. I finally began to understand that I have a right to say no. I have a right to stand up for myself. And one of the things um, we have to learn as adults, because today there are still people that are uncomfortable with telling others no, especially the people they love. But they are the consequences of not saying no. They have health problems because of stress, no rest, and if you're one of those people that have a problem with saying no, I want to share with you. I'm going to do it today, and I'm probably going to do it for the next few weeks, talking about boundaries and get an understanding of how we are to execute boundaries. So let's get informed. Y'all ready? Remember, you can call in 408 598 2602. 408 598 2602. So there are three types of boundaries, and let's talk about what they are. They are rigid boundaries, porous boundaries, and healthy boundaries. Okay, rigid, porous, and healthy. And y'all excuse me for a minute. My husband has stepped in the room. Yes, dear, I am live. I'm live.
Happy birthday.
Thank you, baby, for happy birthday.
Happy birthday to my wife.
Okay, he's telling me happy birthday. Thank you, honey. All right. So back to our lesson. So rigorous boundaries, porous boundaries, and healthy boundaries. And when we're talking about these different boundaries, I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to talk about rigid boundaries. Okay. Now, rigid boundaries, people with rigid boundaries, they avoid intimacy and close relationships. They're unlikely to ask for help. They have few close relationships. They're very protective of personal information. And they may seem detached even with romantic partners. It keeps others at a distance to avoid the possibility of rejection. Now, people with rigid boundaries, a lot of times they've experienced things like abuse. Okay. It could have been physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, mental abuse, but they've experienced some type of abuse, and that has created some type of trauma. Okay. And so I was one of those people with rigid boundaries, and I didn't realize that that's what I was demonstrating. But it came from a place of abuse because I experienced a lot of abuse starting as a young girl, as as I can remember, at the age of 6. And so it caused me, even with family members, I refused. I wanted to be close with people in the family and all of that, but I avoided that intimacy because I could felt that I could not trust the intimacy, right? And I was very unlikely. I didn't ask for help from anybody because of the lack of trust. And trauma will either eliminate or reduce the trust that you have with people, right? So I didn't have a lot of close relationships. I don't have a lot of close relationships to this day. Well, I'm more in a healthier place now, but I do have boundaries. And one thing I do understand about boundaries, when you become healthier, a healthier person, a lot of times, and you establish boundaries, there are people who get upset with you about establishing healthy boundaries. And when you establish those boundaries and people get upset, that's an indicator of why you needed to set up those boundaries. Hello. So you become very protective of your information, and it seems like you're detached from people, but there are people that you attach to that you can trust, and those are the only people that you attach yourself to. So, and you actually begin to keep people at a distance. Why? Because you're trying to avoid the possibility of rejection. And again, that's because of the lack of trust. And I majored in cutting people off, staying detached from people, because I had experienced a lot of rejection and I just did not want to deal with the rejection anymore. Right. And so you may be one of those people. And I'm not telling you anything's wrong with that, because until you are able to heal, because again, it's your God given right to feel, it's your God given right to heal, and it's your God given right to thrive. However, in each of these emotions and postures and positions in life comes a process. There's a process, because sometimes you don't know what you're feeling or what you're not feeling, right? So it's your right to process, and it's your process, and everyone processes different. Everybody processes different. Even when it comes down to grief, there are times people tell others, you need to get over it. It's been years, but it's not their process. It's your process. There are behaviors that people demonstrate. And remember, behavior is determined by your belief system. What do you believe about the situation? What do you believe about yourself? What do you believe about the other people? What do you believe about the experiences that you have had? What do you believe? And based on what you believe is how you are going to behave, how you are going to respond in life. Period. Period. And from the church house to the outhouse to the White House, from your house to my house, everyone may respond differently. And at the end of the day, it's your right on how you respond. Now, the truth is, your response may be healthy or it may be unhealthy. But if you don't have the right skills, if you don't have the right tools, if you don't have the right data, then you're going to continue to default to what you know or what you don't know. Okay. So in knowing this, most people have a mix, have a mixture of boundaries. I talked about rigid boundaries, porous boundaries, and healthy boundaries. And just to give you just a brief overview of what the differences are, the rigid boundaries, we kind of just talked about that. But when it comes down to porous boundaries, these are the people that overshare. They just overshare. They just overshare. And a lot of times you overshare because you're looking for acceptance. You're looking for approval. And there's nothing wrong with wanting approval, but approval is not always necessary from people. And then the healthy boundaries mean you value your own opinions. You have to get to that place. So that's kind of the difference in the areas, those three areas. And a lot of people have a mixture of all three boundaries. It depends on the setting. At work, you may have healthy boundaries, you may have rigid boundaries or porous boundaries, but at home, you may have a different set of boundaries. But at the end of the day, you have to properly appropriate the boundaries. Because one thing I do know is people will do what you allow them to do. They will do what you allow them to do. I remember right now, I can give a personal testimony on this, right? So at this moment in time, it's been about 2.5 years. My nickname, people have been, calling me by my nickname evidently for half a century, or a little bit close to half a century. However, I have a name. My name is Nicole. I have a requirement for my name and I want people to call me by my name. There are so many people that they're struggling, and it's been over 2 years. They're struggling with calling me by my name. However, that's a boundary that I have established. And at this moment, those people are still struggling, but I don't get upset with them. I just remind them, because when you establish boundaries, you have to remind people about your boundaries, because people won't necessarily honor your boundaries or respect your boundaries, especially people who don't respect you, because people treat you how they feel about you, how they think about you, and how they value you. So you don't have to ask people if they respect you. You don't have to ask people if they value you. People treat you how they think of you, how they value you, and how they respect you. So just pay attention to how people treat you. That's all you have to do. And then you make a decision if you're going to continue allowing them access to your emotions, your psyche, to your presence, period. It's up to you, because peace is priceless. And so you can't pay for peace, but you can position yourself so that you can live a life of peace. And so I'm going to stop there. Um, if you are one of those people and you want to share and give some feedback, give us a call at 408-598-2602. And at this moment, if you're trying to type anything in the chat for some reason, this monkey is still here and it's telling me that something has gone wrong. So therefore, I don't see anyone's chat right now. So anyone typing in the chat, I do see there's a couple of people on. Thank you for joining us. But give me a call. Let me know you're here, because right now I cannot pick up your chat. I cannot. Okay. So again, so I'm going to continue. I'm going to probably cut it short this morning. Again, it is my birthday. Yes, it is my birthday. 52. Yes, yes, chapter 52. And yes, I am feeling indeed blessed this morning, because I have my health, I have my strength. Y'all, and I feel pretty good. And I think I look pretty good too. Anyways, but again, the verse of the day, the quote of the day: it is not my responsibility to catch fire so that you can be warm. Mm, come on, for the people in the back. Take that with you if you're on the way to work. Come on, share that with people in your family. It is not, come on, said with attitude, my responsibility to catch fire for you to get warm. Come on, somebody. So, anyways, but I don't see anyone in the chat. We're having technical difficulties. However, if you want to call in, and if you have not got a chance to call in, what you can do, you can actually send your questions, your comments, excuse me, to dweedmylife@gmail.com. I will get them and we will address them for the next session. Until next time, this is Dr. Lowe, your people's coach.